I'd like to give a shout out to our newest sponsor, Solutions Today Supplemental Insurance. If you're a competitor in the cage, in the boxing ring, put your body on the line every time you compete, you can get cut, you can break a leg, a finger, who knows, put you out of work. It sucks. They'll provide you with 24/7, 365 days a year supplemental insurance covering everything from hospital stays, fractures, outpatient surgery, recovery benefits, family plans, and more. They pay out in addition to all other insurance, including WSIB, employment insurance, and your work benefits. Qualification is easy. No medical test or exam needed, no occupational restrictions, and no income verification. Head on over to solutionstoday.ca and get coverage for you and your family.
So I didn't know exactly what you did. And it wasn't until a few years, like in the making, when I started, I was like, oh, this guy is legit. He has a full operating business, and this is exactly. But since we're rolling, I'm just going to introduce you.
Yeah.
It's Callum Anderson. So it's Dr. Callum Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Studio 88. My special guest today, Dr. Callum Anderson. He's a naturopathic doctor, runs a company called Phenom
High
Performance Medicine. And I was just explaining how the first time we met, which was back in 2013, and you're helping out athletes with IV drips and getting guys rehydrated after their bouts.
Yes.
I don't know if that's an illegal thing with the commission or not, so we won't tell anybody their names. but ideally, that's what you deal with. You work with NHLers, UFC superstars. Who do you work? TJ Laramie you work with, Adam Asenza, Felice Herrig, I believe. Who else is on your radar there?
In terms of UFC guys, or
in terms of all professional athletes, or is that confidential?
Yeah, I've been lucky, man. Quite a few guys, like even local guys. Jesse Ronson, Sam Stout. I've done quite a bit of work with Sam. Chris Hordecki. Trying to think of who else. Chad Laprise. Most of the local guys I've worked with, and then quite a few UFC guys, quite a few NHL players, Olympic athletes, wrestlers, boxers. Really anyone who's trying to optimize their performance, we're working with.
So in a nutshell, let's break it down for people who don't understand what it is that you do. Everything that I see you post online is about being natural, making sure you're taking the right vitamins, making sure hormones are in balance. Explain to me exactly how this whole thing works, because 100% I am intrigued, and anybody who's a high-performance athlete, or if you're not a high-performance athlete, should be living the way that you preach.
Yeah, so we have kind of a system that we put together just from working with so many high performers over the years. We've developed, and I have a team of 4 doctors with me, so we're all naturopathic doctors and functional medicine doctors. We have a license in pharmacology and then another license in IV therapy. So we can combine our own nutrients, make our own IV bags, put in all the amino acids, electrolytes into the bags, like all that kind of stuff. But we've put together sort of a process that we work with high performers with. And it's a lab test-based process. So we're looking at special kinds of lab tests to figure out how someone's functioning currently, and then what we can do to optimize all those aspects to take their performance to the next level. Wow. So the 3 big systems, to not get too sciencey with you, just so hormone system, gut health, and then detox system. Those 3 systems we're working with, and then we're lab testing each one to see what's happening behind the scenes, so we can basically go in and optimize each one. The best way of thinking of it and how we think of what we do is, imagine you take your high performance car in, you plug it into diagnostics at the dealership or whatever, and you get to see, what's off, what needs to be improved, what's deficient, where those things need to be. And we spend a lot of time perfecting our method, which we call the Phenom method, and sourcing out the best labs to use that give us the most accurate info, and then taking that info and putting it into like a performance plan. So with all of our top end athletes and all of our patients, like my clinic has 4 doctors, and then I work with mainly the athletes, and then the rest of us work with, police officers, professionals, dentists. We have family doctors. We have cardiologists as patients. We have all kinds of different people that come in that want to maximize their health and performance. So we're using the same system with everyone but then we're able to quickly figure out which areas need to be fixed first. So with the MMA guys and the combat athletes, we kind of know which areas are going to be a problem just because I've worked with so many. I probably work with over 50 plus pro fighters, work closely with over the years, right? So for them, we're typically looking at lab testing blood, lab testing saliva, stool, urine, so we can get inside info what's happening. And this is kind of like the more sort of modern approach, more cutting edge approach of looking at things. Like we can run all the same blood work as your family doctor would, but those things are usually going to come back pretty normal for someone who's already competing and healthy and doing well in whatever discipline they're in. We're looking at more of the functional tests so we can see what's happening behind the scenes.
Wow. So an athlete will reach out to you and they'll say, hey, Dr. Callum, I need to cut from 145 to 135. I'm shorter than other athletes. Is it doable? Is that something that you can look right into and say, okay, is it possible for someone to get to a different weight category if they need to?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're looking at a few different factors there, like body fat percentage. We're looking at what's the timeline like, what their current state is, and then we're assessing all the other side factors too, like stress levels, their current diet. There's a whole bunch of factors that would go into it. But yeah, weight cutting or bringing someone's weight down is part of it. But I guess I'm viewing myself a bit more as like a performance specialist. Like the weight, we can get the weight down. That's not a huge deal, but can you get the weight down and perform the way you want to perform?
Gotcha.
That's the key, right? Like anyone can get the weight down. It's not really rocket science unless you're making a massive drastic cut you're trying to make.
Do you get that? Do you get guys that come in and say, look, I need to get to a lighter weight category and it's just not going to work for me? Is it doable? Is that something that you fully dive into and go, well, with your body fat percentage and the way you are now, it is doable, but it's hard on your kidneys. It's hard on this.
Yeah. I'll always have that conversation saying like, we can probably make that weight. When's the last time you've been at that weight? And how are you going to perform at that weight? And then if we can plan it out in advance, then I'd be more on board. But yeah, you have guys coming to you all the time, last minute. I've got to cut, this amount of weight, or short turnaround fights, especially on the sort of smaller local shows, right? They'll be looking to try to switch weight classes. And if we can plan it in advance, yeah, I'm down to do that. But I think the better strategy is to keep your weight in an area that you have options. So you can go to a few different weight classes, especially the lower weight classes. It's only 10 pounds difference, right? So if you're in striking distance to make 135, you can go up to 45, go down to 25. I like kind of planning it out that way, so guys have those options.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then you have more opportunities for short notice stuff, and you're not killing your body. And you've seen it, I'm sure, with guys, huge cuts, and then their performance really suffers. And then what's the point?
Right. They cut all that weight to get to fight a smaller guy, but they're not optimal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I see it quite a bit actually.
Yeah.
So let's just say I'm like, listen, I get shitty sleep. I'm giving you me as an example. It's probably the best way to do it. I'm a night shift worker.
Yeah.
I get 5 hours sleep a night. That's pretty much regular because I have a daughter that I take care of in the day. Nutrition is garbage because I work night shift. I'm always on the go. Seasonal depression is a huge thing for me. I need sunshine. If I don't have the sunshine, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Energy levels are always low, probably because not a lot of sleep. What was something that I could do? Like if I came to you and said, "Hey, I need help. I need to kind of get my shit together. I need to figure out what's going on." What are the steps that I would take, and how would that work for someone that say is not high performance?
Yeah. So we like to kind of fast track stuff with people. So that's why the lab testing is so good. So I would probably blood test you and see what foods work best with you and what don't right away. And then right away, we can pull out those foods that don't work well for you. Those foods are going to make you tired. They're going to make you sluggish, make you hold on to body fat, hold on to weight, make you feel foggy or depressed. Those foods we're going to pull out right away.
So you can figure that out just by blood work?
We do a specific blood test, like a specialized test where we test, 120 or 200 foods of the most common foods and see, do eggs work well for you? Does bread work well for you? Does rice work well for you? What kind of veggies or proteins or nuts and seeds kind of work well for you? And everyone's different. So this is a way, you can kind of cut to the chase and say, okay, pull these ones out. We're going to focus on these ones. And then combined with that, we'll probably look at hormones too. So there's functional hormones that drive your energy levels and sleep cycles. So those ones are critical. If you're working night shift, you're going to be a little against the circadian rhythm, completely against it. So you want to see what kind of impact that's having. And if you're on steady nights, then we would optimize you for that pattern.
See, maybe 2 years ago, I reached out to a nutritionist. And I mean, ideally, I do know how to eat relatively well for losing weight and cutting weight. But I was given a generic meal plan, and I was kind of upset about it. I was like, that's just so generic. You didn't even ask me what my dinner time is like, 10 p.m. 12 midnight. I work till 4 a.m. So it wasn't really structured to me, and I felt like they just took my money and gave me the printout and said, here you go, just eat this and you'll lose weight. But they didn't take anything else into account. And I was kind of irritated by it. I still paid him the money because he still gave me a service. But at the end of the day, it was like I didn't believe in it because he didn't ask me what I did for a living. He assumed I was up at 6 a.m. I ate at 7. I worked out at 10. There was no questions.
Yeah, that's why we go into full detail with someone if we're starting to work with them. It's like an hour-long intake where we're looking at what's your lifestyle like, what are your patterns like, what are you doing in your day, what kind of work do you do, what supplements are you taking, what medications are you taking, like all that stuff makes a difference in terms of what we're going to do and then how we're going to give you those precise strategies. And for most people, it's not a lack of effort, it's a lack of the right strategies. So I think what we do well is pull out the right couple of things that are going to give you a big return and feel really good really fast. And then we just keep building off that and keep kind of optimizing it.
Yeah, because people want quick results. That's how they get, it really worked. Yeah. Let's do it from here because I lost 10 pounds in a week, even though it was water retention. It still was that trigger enough to get you that motivation, and people want to see results.
Yeah, results, and also like energy is a good one. If you don't have energy, everything else is going to go out the window. If your energy is really low, no matter what kind of good nutrition you want to take in, or you want to get to the gym, or you want to do whatever you want to do, it's probably not going to happen. You don't see people with low energy and high motivation usually, right? So we're usually trying to optimize energy right away. And then what goes with that is sleep. So we can actually measure hormones. So we'll check the circadian rhythm hormones. So for example, cortisol should drive your energy throughout the day. Melatonin should drive your sleep. So we'll do saliva or urine tests where we can actually measure the free hormones in someone. So we get you to do 4 samples in one day, and we can see what your rhythm is like, where your energy's up, where it's crashing, what's happening with your sleep. If cortisol is high at night, you won't be able to fall asleep, or if you do, it'll be light sleep, which is terrible for an athlete because you're not getting any of the recovery or restorative sleep benefits from that. So when we can see all that information, then we can go in and correct things really fast. So we can get improvements like, in a fight camp, if it's, an 8-week fight camp or 10-week fight camp, we can get, huge amounts of improvement as we're going. And we're thinking of getting our athletes better as the camp is going on. So their performance should be getting better and better and better as we're, bringing the weight down or whatever else we're doing. But by the time the fight comes, they should be feeling better than they were when the camp started, which most of the fighters I started with early on, it was the reverse. You felt good at the beginning of your camp, and then you just kind of grinded yourself down until the end, and then you're barely making it to the fight, which is the most important thing. It's totally backwards, right? Wow. So we're trying to do it the other way and flip it around. And some of the analytics and the science behind it is looking at some of the labs and again, sourcing the right ones and what to do with that info. That's the thing, right? You can have a lot of information in front of you, but how can you take that complex amount of info and spin it into a plan that someone can follow really easily? Like most of our performance plans are like 2 or 3 steps. Do these 2 or 3 things every day at these times for this first month. And then we're going to switch it to this. And we're going to switch it to this. Yeah. So super, super simple stuff. And I started working with a lot of high-end athletes as my first patients. I think a lot of like pro hockey players and combat athletes were my first few people I work with. And you can put together a crazy strategic plan with 10, 20 things to do. And then they'll do 2 or 3. Right?
Yeah. Focus on every other thing else. Everything else.
Yeah. So we've kind of like fine-tuned everything to make it really precise. Like I kind of think of it as like precision medicine. Like if we're doing these couple things every day, this is what we expect to see. And then we should be able to keep building off that and building. And the same thing goes for our hockey players or boxers or wrestlers. We have the same method that we're using, just the intensity is a bit different depending on the timeline. So we have a lot of executives coming in, law teams. We work with companies to optimize their workforce. We use the same process. It's just that the intensity of it's a little bit different depending on what's happening. Like, is it a UFC title fight coming? We have a bunch of guys in the playoffs right now for the NHL playoffs, like in the bubble. And we had a bit of a short turnaround with those guys. So it's just like, how urgent are these things? And that's kind of the only difference. If someone doesn't have something coming up that's pending, then we can stretch out the timeline a little bit and not be so intense.
So ideally, it's a multiple visit with you. So somebody would sign on with you and they would say, "Listen, I just need some help. I just need to get my shit together."
Yeah.
Start first phase, which would be the blood work, saliva, stool, and you kind of get everything. You get all the readings on everything on how they are currently. Then you tweak them. You take a few things out. You say, do this for the next couple of weeks, and then do they come back and see you?
Yeah.
Do you run another set of blood tests? And
yeah, depending on like our NHL guys, for example, we'll test them a couple times a year because they can wear themselves out. Same with the UFC fighters. Like sometimes they're doing 2 or 3 fights, 4 fights a year. So we're trying to make sure everything's recovered and restored before they take another one. And we've learned over time that, you want to make sure hormones are balanced. You can handle the weight cut. Your performance is not going to suffer through camp. You have peak energy throughout the day, deep sleep at night, and then you can go hard in a whole camp and go right through until the fight. So a typical program with me for our athletes will be about 4 months long. We have an assessment first where it's like an hour long. We go through everything, figure out everything that they're doing, everything they're not doing. Then we get their lab results back and I make a performance plan for them to follow. And then we check in like once a month. And then we see like, this and this should be happening. Like I expect to see this and this. If I don't see that, then we make these adjustments until we get it perfect. And most of the guys I've been working with, I've been doing this is my 9th year in practice, but most of the guys I've been working with for many years. Like a lot of the guys you mentioned there have been with me for 5, 6, 7 years. Well, that's what I always see
the pictures, right?
Yeah.
I always see, I'm like, oh, he's working with him. So they trust you. That's the biggest thing. And I see the guys, like you take a guy like Ronson, he don't fucking trust anybody. You know what I mean? Like he's just like, he's skeptical on everybody. And he's not afraid to say that. Yeah. So the fact that he would work with you, speaks high volumes because you go, okay, wow, this guy, he believes that they believe in your, and I don't want to say product, but what's a better way to put it is they just believe in you. They believe in the process is what I'm trying to say, right? Yeah. So I see you talk about fasting quite a bit. Is that something that you implement with the fighters and athletes as well? Yeah,
a little bit for some different reasons. Like sometimes, again, depending on hormones, if your hormones are burnt out already and you do fasting, it'll make it worse. Like you can actually gain weight, gain body fat and go the other way, slow down your thyroid.
So people don't talk about this.
Exactly, yeah.
They always say, fast for 16 hours every day, you're going to lose all this weight. But
yeah. And that's the thing too, like we're in the trenches, like, I'm working all week long with people, back-to-back visits all day long. So not only do I know the theory and what should happen based on the research and what studies are showing, I'm also seeing it firsthand. So I'm like, this is not going to work. I don't care what the studies are showing. This is not going to work because I haven't seen it work 10 times when I've tried it with somebody. So that goes into it too. But I think knowing the people well and understanding what they require and then thinking about where they're trying to get to, like with some of the fighters, just by being a fan of the sport and being interested in MMA and always wanting to be a part of that, being a part and working with those kind of athletes, I know what the end kind of goal is and where they should get to. So when we're adjusting things, we know, what kind of things are essential for them: recovery, energy, weight cutting, performance on the day, mental focus, all those things. So when we're looking at fasting, it's like, does this match with what we're trying to do? It may not match. Like for some athletes, I'll put them on fasting protocols just to control their food intake more.
Oh wow, because it's a calorie deficit.
Yeah, and it keeps you in control. You can only do so much damage in 8 hours, right?
Right.
And then depending on what they're showing hormonally, I can push them further or not. Like some of our MMA athletes, I have them doing maybe a 24-hour fast like twice a week to get their fasting insulin levels down, just so they're in a position where they can burn more body fat, for example. And then once we're down in a good level, then we'll come back off the fasting. Just depends on the time and the place for all these things. Like they're all good tools, but it doesn't mean just because fasting is popular that it's going to work for everybody, because you won't see that. It's just same with the nutrition, like you said earlier. Like it's pretty common sense now what good food is and what you should be avoiding. Like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what you shouldn't have if you're trying to feel your best, right? But going in more detail with that and figuring out when to use nutrition to your advantage, how to structure that, and kind of be more specific with it, I think is where people need to be. Even like the reason why we're looking at gut health, for example, like I was talking about, so 5% of the gut bacteria between people is the same, but 95% of the genes between people is the same, but only 5% of your gut bacteria is the same between us, right? So that means what food you're giving your gut bacteria is going to be different. So
let's talk about gut bacteria.
Yeah.
So this is something that can cause brain fog. Let's dive into this gut health thing. What can somebody do on their own to improve gut health? How do you know if you have shitty gut health?
Yeah.
Like how do you know? Like without being tested, how would somebody know? Like, you know what? Maybe I need to get my gut health in check because my cognitive function is garbage right now because I can't remember. See, my memory is garbage, and I don't know if it's because I smoke weed, right? Or I'm getting old. I'm 41 years old, so I find that I forget things. I'm becoming more forgetful.
Yeah. So it could be a few things. So gut health is a bit of a tricky one because your gut impacts every system in your body. That's why it's so critical, and that's why it's one of the big kind of three that we're focusing on. But what you're talking about is that gut-brain connection. So the more that's being discovered about the gut is that it's completely connected with the brain. So the most amount of nerve connections are between your gut and your brain.
Wow, I didn't know.
So it's communicating back and forth constantly. That's why people say you get a gut feeling about something, or if you have an exam coming or something stressful coming, you feel like sick to your stomach, because all those nerves are connecting back and forth. They're actually saying that gut may be the first brain. Really? Because when you have some bad bacteria in the gut, and so for example, if you have like overgrowth of yeast in the gut, or it's called candida in the gut, it'll actually drive you to crave sugar more. So it's actually kind of
that's funny,
pushing your mind to do something different than what it would do otherwise, right? So the gut-brain connection is huge, but gut health is in one way easy to figure out, because if you have bloating, constipation, loose stools, you just feel super tired after meals, that's like the digestive angle of it. But then you also have the brain side of it. So like you said, brain fog, mood up and down, feeling irritable after eating, like those kind of things are little clues to that. But yeah, like the quickest fix on that is to pull out some of the most common culprits. So this is a tough one, but like the reason why they say fried foods are bad is because they're so inflammatory for the gut. They can cause your gut to be inflamed for like up to 18 hours to 20 hours after having them. So that'd be the easy one to pull out. And then some of the big kind of food reactivities would be like gluten or bread, dairy, eggs, tree nuts, and soy. Those are like the big five. So you could do an experiment where you pull all those out for 10 days and see how you feel and see how that changes everything, because you'll clear all those antibodies out of your system in that 10-day span.
You want to hear something funny? Yeah. My wife is a vegan.
Okay.
She's new vegan, so she's learning about all this stuff.
Yeah.
I had terrible allergies for years. Yeah. Like since I was a kid, I remember waking up having to wash my eyes open. They would stick together. Yeah. I would go through days where my nose was dripping. I had to jam Kleenex up my nose. Anybody that knows me throughout the years, I had the worst allergies ever. And my wife said to me, cut out dairy. Get rid of dairy out of your diet, because you shouldn't eat dairy anyways, because milk was for cows, not for baby. Like she was a very big component of that. And she goes, cut the dairy out. And I was doing it because I lift weights. So I'd have a protein shake. I drink a bag of milk a day. Like I love milk. I love the taste of milk. I grew up on Homo milk. That's probably why I was a chubby kid. Yeah. But ultimately, milk was my thing. And I listened to her. I just said, okay, I'll try no milk. I actually got off the protein shakes in general and just went to more like a better source, which I went to eggs, which is
Yeah.
She wasn't happy about it, but still, it was like eggs was a source of protein for me. And I found my allergies completely went away.
Yeah.
Like gone. Like I don't have any symptoms. I think maybe, and I live next to a friggin' meadow, like a ragweed and everything. And she's dripping. Her nose is dripping every day. And I'm like, and she don't drink milk, but that's just her. But I have nothing.
Yeah. So it's not that everyone can't tolerate dairy, but dairy is pretty mucus producing. That's one of the properties of it. But also too, like 70 to 80% of your immune system's in your gut, which most people don't realize, right? So when you're looking at an immune reaction, like an allergy, the gut is where it needs to be fixed. So that's another kind of sign for people. If you have a lot of allergies, first place to start is fix your gut, pull out those foods, get rid of the industrial oils, like the fried stuff as much as you can, and give your gut a chance to reset. And that's really the reason why we do the blood testing, to see what foods you don't work well with, so we can then fix your gut, pull those foods out for 21 days, allow you to make a new gut lining naturally, reintroduce the foods, and then you get peak absorption of all those things you're taking in. You know, a lot of guys will spend time preparing, you know, all kinds of food, but if you're not absorbing it well, then again, you're missing the point, right? So we'll often do that reset process and kind of build out from there. But yeah, people get concerned about gluten. It's common. You see gluten-free in restaurants now, and everyone thinks that they should avoid it. But really, you need to have some information, like, should I spend the time and effort and sacrifice avoiding these things? Is that actually going to do anything positive for me? Should you avoid eggs? Should you avoid tree nuts? Should you avoid soy? Like all these different things. It's based on the individual. Like if everyone pulls them out, you're not going to get the same improvement.
Right. Do you ever hear anything about like eat towards your blood type?
Yeah.
How does that stuff work? Do you deal with that, or is that a bunch of mumbo jumbo?
I don't know. Like, I don't know too much about it, but I just know, like, with certain types that are on that, the way they recommend eating isn't suited towards like optimal health and functioning. So that makes me think that the whole thing doesn't make sense.
Because Paris Stanford, he's fought TJ Laramie on the charity event we did last year. And when I was talking to him in his hotel room when he came, he had mentioned that he was a vegan. He's like, I need somewhere to eat. You know, I'm a vegan, and I need where can I go get food? He's not from here, so I was like recommending different places for him to go. And he said, I go, how come you turned vegan? You know, was it because compassion reasons? Like, what were you? I'm always curious.
Yeah.
And he said he took a test. This freaking fruit flies drive me bananas. He took a test to see what his blood type was. And he said, and his blood type told him that you shouldn't eat animal product. And he said he's never felt better. He was like, I feel amazing. Yeah, I feel strong. I feel everything changed for him because he ate towards his blood type. I never really researched too much about it. I've kind of heard about it, and you kind of read a little bit, but I always wondered if it was bullshit or if it was like...
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I looked at it a long time ago when it was first coming out, being popular. It didn't really make a lot of sense that way. But if guys feel good with something, I'll never like switch it. Like if you feel good in your mind likes what you're doing and you're really kind of into that, then we'll roll with that and we'll adjust some other things. But what people should know too is, like, with nutrition, that first few months that you make that switch into whatever it may be, paleo, vegan, keto, whatever it may be, you're probably going to feel better because now you're on sort of a strict plan you're following where you're cutting out all the junk. So you're probably going to feel good for those first couple of months. The true test is past that 3-month mark. How do you feel? How's your performance? How's your muscle tone? What's your recovery like?
Have you plateaued?
Is your weight stuck? Is your weight going up? Is your body fat going up? And you see that a lot. People get really excited about the newest nutrition fad or whatever it is. And I always say, like, let's see how you feel after 3 months, and then we'll see.
Because I suggested you to a friend of mine, and it was because he spoke, keto. I'm gonna try the keto. I'm gonna try this, and I go, dude. You should go see this guy in Hamilton. Yeah. He'll take your blood work, and I didn't really know too much about it. I kind of knew a gist because going on your website and checking, there was the Elite 8 and kind of going through that whole process. And I don't think he reached out to you. I'm not sure if he did or not, but ultimately it was like to really find out what your body can do, you really need to see what's going on inside your body before you make those adjustments. Do you check like testosterone levels and all that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we do some different ways. We do blood testing, we do urine testing to check for testosterone and changes with that. But yeah, like all those hormones work together too, and people get stuck on like one hormone, but they all kind of work together. It's not like you can isolate testosterone and just focus on that, because you have like cortisol and DHEA that help you make testosterone, for example. And I know with MMA, when they ruled out TRT, for example, a lot of guys like in the UFC were panicking, right? Because you take out the testosterone, that's the end of the chain. But you can actually restore that natural testosterone production by getting the top of the chain going. It's like a waterfall, right? So if you improve what's happening at the top, and then there's some other evidence-based ways, science-based ways you can improve testosterone naturally. So if you're being tested a lot, it's totally fine. Like we have UFC guys where we're improving their testosterone quite a bit naturally, with no issues.
How would you do that?
The two best evidence-based ones, vitamin
1,000
D.
yams a day?
Yeah. What is it?
1,000 yams a
Yams
day?
a day, yeah.
Tribulus terrestre.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually that doesn't have a lot. People get into that one a lot too, but it doesn't have a lot of evidence. Zinc and vitamin D, two best natural ways to raise testosterone, evidence-based.
So supplement's
Supplement's a good way to do it. Obviously, weight training's a good way to do it. Improving sleep's a good way to do it. Like all those hormones, big hormones get released during sleep. And a lot of athletes and a lot of people have sleep problems. So when we're looking at what their hormones are doing at night, a lot of people have high cortisol at night. So you can only have one hormone active at a time. If cortisol is active at night, your melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, can't kick in. So you may fall asleep because you're physically tired because you trained all day or you worked all day, but you're not getting to those deep levels of sleep that you need to hit. You need 20% deep sleep in a sleep cycle, in a sleep duration.
So you have to hit REM?
Yeah, the REM is a little controversial because there's not a lot of direct evidence on how much REM you need. You need at least 20% deep sleep. That's known in the research. So a lot of these like Apple Watch and Fitbit and like the Whoop Band and Oura Ring and all those things track that now. So a lot of our athletes and patients, we can monitor that, and I can see, okay, how much deep sleep, it'll tell you what percentage you're hitting. If you're not hitting that percentage, then we got to make some adjustments till we get to the 20. I had one of my NHL guys today, actually. He used to be at 5% deep sleep. He's now at 22%.
So how do you know someone's only at 5% deep sleep?
Just with his, he has a tracking. He has the Oura Ring. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
It's like a ring that you can
Actually,
wear.
yes, I have heard of that.
Yeah, tracks like your resting heart rate, your heart rate variability, tracks like calories burn, tracks like, I think the Oura does oxygen as well, a bunch of different parameters, and you just wear it 24/7. You can get the same data on a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, and it'll actually tell you your percentage of deep sleep.
Wow.
And then for him, we had to make some changes. He's only get 5%. He's playing in the NHL. Like, that's a lot of games, a lot of recovery that he's missing out on. He was tweaking stuff all the time, getting little injuries. So made some adjustments to improve that. So we actually put him on time restricted eating. So he stopped eating earlier in the night, because in order for you to hit deep levels of sleep, your core body temperature has to drop. That's the key to getting deep sleep.
Oh, wow.
Your core body temperature has to drop. So if you're putting food in your system at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night and trying to go to bed,
it's burning that food up while you're sleeping.
that's right. So now you're trying to sleep and you need to cool your body, and that's how it's designed to work, right? The other thing we've done with some of our Olympic athletes is actually so pull the food back. Then we had them doing like and you probably know Epsom baths from weight cutting, but we had them do Epsom baths, a warm Epsom bath after training at night, so that when they get out of the bath, all the cold air hits you and it drops your core temperature quick, and then they'd go straight to bed.
Okay.
So it's the reverse of what you think. They were doing ice baths after training. We had a few Olympic guys that were training together, living together, and they would finish training, sit in the ice bath to kind of recover more, and then they couldn't sleep. Because when you get out of the ice bath, the reverse happens.
Start to warm up.
Now the air hits you and warms your body up, and then you're not sleeping deeply, and their deep sleep percentages were dropping. So they weren't getting good recovery, which means you try to go train at the same intensity the next day, it's too hard. You try to go back the next day, it's harder, right? So there's little things like that where you can make adjustments, and if you have some data, you can really tweak things quickly with easy fixes like that. We had one of our guys playing for the World Juniors too, Team Canada World Juniors. He was having the same problem where he wasn't recovering, and his back was seizing up. He was getting hurt. Every couple of games he was getting hurt. We had to improve sleep, but again, it's not precise enough to say improve your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what does that mean?
Like how does it work? Like, I mean, I go to bed at 4:00 in the morning. I'm just using myself as an example because I know my schedule. I go to bed at 4 in. I'm up the next day, 9:30, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And then it's like coffee. It's the first thing. It's like I need coffee. I need caffeine. And I find I take a lot of caffeine.
Yeah.
And it can't be good for you. I've also heard, I've heard caffeine is good for you, but I've also heard it's too much is bad for you. I don't really get the jitters. I could drink a pot of coffee and go to bed. Only thing that would affect me is having to take a leak midway through the night and getting up.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I can fall asleep like that. Like I can close my eyes and I'll be out in like within 5 minutes I'll be sleeping, and then I'll dream. So I feel like my sleep is all like messed.
But have you been on the same work schedule for a while?
20 years.
20 years. Okay. So you would actually be better off kind of staying with that schedule and then optimizing that. Like we have quite a few shift workers we work with. Like I was actually on the medical team for Peel Police for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. So quite a few 12-hour shift workers and everything else. So the guys that were on nights for 7 nights straight, for example, we would optimize them for a night schedule. So have them sleep more during the day and like kind of reverse their circadian rhythm almost. And you can use things like caffeine. Like caffeine is controversial. What I would say, again, it's more individualized. Like we do genetic analysis, for example, where we can tell if you're a fast metabolizer for caffeine or a slow metabolizer. Mm-hmm. So if you're a fast metabolizer, you can process it in 8 hours, get it out of your system, and just get the performance benefits of it without any of the negative effects.
So you can actually pinpoint that.
Yeah, there's a gene.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we'll use caffeine a lot for our athletes, but again, I want to know, is this going to be beneficial for this guy or girl, or is this just going to make them jittery and tired and sluggish or whatever? So if you're a fast metabolizer, then I use it to our advantage. Okay, before training, we're using caffeine for sure, and we're using this amount because caffeine and creatine are the two most heavily researched performance enhancing substances, caffeine and creatine. But with caffeine, you have to know if it's going to work well with someone or not. So if I don't know, then I'm not going to say, let's use caffeine for training.
Do you know much about pre-workouts?
Yeah.
I've taken some pre-workouts in the past. I've had some pre-workouts where I had to sit on the bench and not die. Yeah. Where I was like, I'm itchy from like the niacin. And like, this is just too much. Like this is it. But I found doing taking caffeine and it's on the tip of my tongue. Ephedrine.
Okay.
So take a caffeine, ephedrine, and a baby aspirin. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah,
concoction?
stack.
Yeah. So I would take that.
Yeah.
And I found my nasal passages nice and open. I can breathe. I can go running. I can do all those things. The caffeine kind of kept me good. And then I think the point of the baby aspirin was so you didn't have a heart attack or something. I don't even know. It was like one of those gym myths, right?
Yeah.
So like, here, take this, or you'll feel better. You'll lose weight or whatever. Like, do you push? Like, do you recommend those things, or do you really force the guys to say, get all your supplementation from nutrition? Or is it a combination of both?
I'll push nutrition for sure because it's the easiest way to do it, creates good habits. It's just a smart thing to do. But if there's time restrictions, if they're going to be missing the mark with certain things, then we'll make sure that they're getting other things in their system just to make sure they're at that optimal.
Do you have your own supplement source?
Sorry, I was going to say, I'm just going to switch something on here quickly. So
Yeah.
Give me like a 3-minute break.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We had to reset our cameras system real quick here, and we had back to supplementation for pre-workout. Let's back up. So caffeine, you're okay with guys taking caffeine? You think it's okay? What about coffee?
Yeah.
I drink a lot of coffee. Can you take too much caffeine in a day? Is there?
Yeah, you can. So like, depending on if you're a fast metabolizer or not, like if you're slow, then you want to keep it like under 400 milligrams a day, which is like 3 8-ounce cups in a day.
Because I'll take a 200 milligram like caffeine pill when I start to get tired at work. So when I'm at work, I feel myself kind of slowing down. I feel like, oh man, I need to kind of I need a coffee.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I don't want to have a coffee because it dries your mouth out, it dehydrates you. Yeah. It's not satisfying as much in the summer as it is in the wintertime to have a nice hot beverage. Yeah. So I'll take a pill, and then I find I get a little bounce in my step. Okay, I'm like let's finish our shift and get done.
Yeah. I like to make sure energy is optimized just naturally so guys can feel that or my patients can feel that. And then if we need to spot boost you, then we can use little like boosts of caffeine for training or for meeting somewhere where you have to be sharp. Like caffeine really works by blocking your relaxed nervous system. Like a lot of people don't know that.
What
like,
do you mean?
So like you have a active nervous system and you have a rest. So it's called the sympathetic and a parasympathetic. So caffeine blocks your parasympathetic so you can't rest. So it makes you more like alert and energized because of that. Like indirectly, it makes you more energized, which is interesting, right? It's not like people think of it as taking caffeine to give me like a huge energy boost, but you're just blocking your relaxed system so it can't engage. So it only allows your active nervous system to be on.
Oh.
Right. So if you have a lot of anxiety or if you have panic attacks or things like that, then you don't want to be blocking your relaxed nervous system all the time because then you're going to be in a state of constant over sympathetic side. So you could be walking on kind of anxious all the time and then panicky almost like to the next level. Right.
Oh,
So
that makes sense.
yeah. So caffeine, I like to optimize the circadian rhythm first, like those hormones I was telling you about, because you can get peak energy with nothing. And our patients are usually blown away. They're like, I had a guy today, actually, he's a family doctor. He's like, I used to have 6 cups of coffee a day just to get through the day. He's on 0 right now and he has more energy than before.
Really?
He's on 0, but we've optimized that whole rhythm. So he's having peak energy all day. And then we can use shots of espresso or caffeine pills when he's going to go and work out or when he's going to do CrossFit or when he's going to run or whatever else he's going to do, just to take that to the next level. And caffeine before a workout too is good because it gives you the mental focus to like push your workout further.
That's what I like about the pre-workouts is it's not so much the energy that it's given me, it's the focus.
Yeah.
What's the name of the herb that they put in? There's an herb that they give you for focus.
Theanine? L-theanine?
Maybe.
Or Bacopa? That's another one.
No, what's another one?
In a pre-workout formula?
Yeah.
Trying to think what else would be in there. Citrulline?
No. Testing your knowledge right now.
Yeah. I'm like running.
There's something else because I bought it on its own because I read that it was strictly for focus and I really liked the focus aspect of things. I'm very focus oriented. If I find if I get on something, I'm like I can't stop. I have to finish whatever I'm started. So I like to get focused, and I find low carbohydrate eating sometimes will make me. I feel like I'm super razor focused, but the focus is what I'm after, and I can't remember the name of what.
You know what? A really good way to do that is like a coffee or an espresso with L-theanine. L-theanine is an amino acid. It comes from green tea, but it improves alpha brain waves, so it makes you more focused, and the caffeine boosts your alertness.
How do you spell it?
L-theanine. L-theanine.
Theanine.
Yeah. That's
Since you brought it up, I most people who listen to this probably listen to Joe Rogan at some point. He's always talking about alpha brain.
Yeah.
Alpha brain. What is that?
Nootropics?
Alpha brain has L-theanine. That's one of the main components in it. Okay. And then it has something
Can you get that on its own?
Yeah, you get it on its own. Yeah. It comes in a chewable formula or a capsule. But if I have like I had to do a presentation for like 800 people for an hour on stage with like no podium or anything. So you have to be like sharp for a long period of time. I'll have like double espresso and like 2 L-theanine and then go do it. And then I feel like I can just stay focused the whole time.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm going to get that name from you before we go. Yeah, because I like focus. I like that if I dive into a project or whatever, anything I'm working on, focus is always, I feel like I have ADD.
Yeah.
Right. So I can quickly lose my focus quick. Yeah. So focus is one of those things I is a huge component. So you do that kind of stuff with your athletes as well then. So you say, I want to get rid of that brain fog, right?
Yes. Yeah. You want to fix gut, you want to fix hormones so that at a baseline, you're feeling really good, functioning really well. And then you can go and optimize little parts of that. Like I'll get guys to try things in sparring, for example, take this before sparring just to see how you feel. Like, do you feel more focused? Maybe take L-theanine before you go and train, see how you feel with it. Like test out different things and see how it affects and impacts you. I have a guy right now who does shooting. Like he He's ranked, I think, top 5 in Canada for like
Ipsec. Ipsec Shooting. They do a competitive shooting with fast.
Yeah.
I carry a firearm for my work.
Yeah.
I have a lot of guys that I work with that are shooters, and they go and they get a beep test, and it's literally beep, boom, 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 and they go through like little courses.
Yeah, and you have to be like mobile and agile. You have to go over the things, and
they call it Ipsec.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm. So I have a guy who's doing that, and we're trying out different things when he goes to do his trials. So like we'll use like ketones, for example, exogenous ketones for brain energy. We'll use things to calm down, and we'll see which ones he does the best performance on, and then we'll use that for competitions. Because he's flying all over to compete, like in Asia and Europe and like all over the place. So yeah, it's kind of like our philosophy is get people functioning well at a basic level, optimize, get all that working really well, and then optimize the certain parts that matter for them. Like if you're a business guy, you want to be like ready for meetings and pitches and presentations. If you're an athlete, you want to be ready for games. If you're, depending on what you're doing, you want to be kind of optimized to suit your discipline, whatever that is.
And I have another question for you too. Vitamin drip. Tell me all about this because I have buddies. It's funny enough because they know I have a relationship with Dr. Faisal.
Okay.
They always ask me, hey, see if Faisal can do vitamin drip.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is a vitamin drip? Like, and they just get all these vitamins. Like, and Woody actually told me this morning, today I was talking to him, and he goes, ask him about the vitamin drips because I heard you did some maybe football players, I think, or CFL players, I think. They come and see you every week. You do it. Like, how does a vitamin drip work, and what is it? What's in? It's like a cocktail of. You explain it.
So all of us with our medical license, you can get an IV license, so intravenous license. So you learn how to formulate different combinations of nutrients. So we make all of our own IVs in my clinic. Like we have a full sterile area. We have all the nutrients. So we can put in like vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, amino acids, electrolytes. We have a whole list of things we can put in. So we get them compounded in little vials. We have a storage freezer. Then we actually make the bags, combine all the nutrients, and then you get 100% absorption of those nutrients.
Wow.
So when you're eating food, you get 40 to 50% if your gut health is good, which most people isn't. If it's really good, you're going to get about that amount of absorption. But when you do intravenous, you bypass the gut and absorb straight into your body.
Is it subcutaneous or intramuscular?
Vein, into the vein.
It goes right into your veins.
Yeah, vein,
so you're
straight in the vein.
Wow.
Yeah, so we do those all the time. Like we do them, we have recliners in my clinic.
Yeah.
2 recliners. It takes about 30, 45 minutes to drip. And patients will come in, just lay down, look on their phone, watch something on Netflix, and then go. We have business guys coming every single week. Athletes come every week. We have 8 basic formulas, like a performance formula, recovery, like an immune formula, some different ones that we'll use. And then we can customize. We can make anything because we make them every morning. So my staff will make whatever they are.
That's right. Before we paused.
Yeah.
You do your own supplements.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So we have a couple formulas we're making. We're in the middle of making a bunch more, only because we work with so many patients and we've seen like gaps in things that are hard to recreate. Like for example, we wanted a cortisol lowering formula at night, like that problem I was telling you guys about. And there wasn't really anything that existed with the right dosage and combination we wanted. So we just made our own. So we just got our own made at a compounding place that can create them for us. And we were like, we want this amount of this amount of this. And they created that for us. And we got them all labeled with our brand on them and everything. We're just making like specialized stuff like that. Just to avoid, like in the past, we would say, okay, we want you to take these 3 supplements to create what we're trying to do at night to lower cortisol.
Every supplement company's different.
Yeah.
The dosage is weird sometimes.
And then you're taking all these things, right? Now we're like, you're just going to take 1 capsule of this because it has everything. What we're trying to do right here in this one thing.
Do they have to be a patient of yours to get these supplements?
They should be because those are quite specialized.
Gotcha.
Like you wouldn't want to take those if you didn't really know what you're doing, or if you don't know if you have high hormones or low hormones, you don't really want to take stuff that's going to push it the other way. And I've seen a lot of people do that the wrong way too. Like we've had a lot of football guys come in and they're taking, for example, high amounts of DHEA. So DHEA is like a precursor to testosterone. So DHEA helps you make your 17 types of testosterone. So in the States, you can walk into like a Whole Foods or a GNC and buy DHEA in the
I've
stores.
heard of it before.
Yeah, in Canada, you can't do that, but in the States, you can. So, but the problem is you take too much DHEA, it tanks your cortisol, and now you're so tired and storing tons of body fat.
What does DHEA do for you?
DHEA makes your anabolic hormones.
Okay.
So it helps you make all your testosterone types.
So it's for increasing testosterone.
Yeah.
Do you deal with guys who are coming off steroids and their testosterone levels are all fucked up because they didn't take estrogen after or whichever? Like, is that a common thing that you see?
Yeah, it was. It's funny, right? You help a couple people and then they tell everyone else. And next thing you know, you have like a whole bunch of people coming who are coming off steroids that want to fix their hormone change.
And most people don't know. I mean, that's the biggest thing is they think, oh man, I'm going to take, 100 IUs of test this week. I don't know the numbers, but I'm going to take tests. I'm going to do this. I'm going to run a cycle for 10 weeks. I'm going to get huge. I'm going to get jacked. I'm going to do, they have this misconception, but then they go off of it. And I've seen it. I've seen guys at the gym all the time. Like, he looks good when he's on the sauce, but when he comes off the sauce, all of a sudden he got fatter. That's where the bitch tit thing comes in. Everything changes. They water retention.
For sure.
So they don't understand, they don't fully understand how all this stuff works. And I wish guys would just do it naturally. Boost your testosterone naturally. That's why it's better than taking an unnatural substance, especially when you don't know where you're getting it from. Yeah,
and I've seen all kinds of stuff. People bring stuff into our clinic like, I got this growth hormone in Thailand. What do you think of this? And you look at the back, you can't even read the writing. They ordered it. They got it sent in the mail to them from Thailand.
That's funny.
But people will take all kinds. It's crazy.
You said DHEA is to help with. They take it to get their testosterone levels up.
Yeah.
But you said it also suppresses the cortisol.
Yes.
But earlier you were saying cortisol is like the waterfall at the top for testosterone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So cortisol and DHEA kind of work like a teeter-totter. So if you take too much DHEA, it's like, so think of a waterfall. So cortisol, DHEA, testosterone. If you take too much of the middle one, it's going to shut off the top.
So it can reduce your testosterone long term?
Yeah. You can impact that whole chain. So that guy that was taking a lot of DHEA, he was like a D1 NCAA football guy. When I lab tested him, his DHEA was like 20 times higher than normal. And I'm like, are you taking DHEA? He's like, yeah, I'm taking it. I got it from Whole Foods. But he'd put on like 25, 30 pounds of body fat.
Wow.
Because he thought, I just keep taking more of this to help my testosterone levels. That should get me leaner. But he was tanking. So if your cortisol dips really low, your body goes into like a survival mode. It thinks like you're under tremendous stress, you're starving, you don't have anything. So you'll just start storing everything you're taking in. So you had a lot of belly fat on him, which was the total opposite. He thought he would keep taking DHA to try to lean out. Yeah. So there's some things in there that you have to know. And that's again, like, I don't think it's not a lack of trying. It's like, if you don't know the right couple of things that you should be doing individually, then you could just be setting yourself back, or you could be making your whole situation worse and get super frustrated and just go and eat whatever and do whatever.
Can we talk costs?
Yeah.
So let's say I want to come in with you and I say, listen, man, I kind of want to get everything checked out. I want to know what's wrong. I'm over 40. I want to know what's going on inside my body. I want to see, and I do all this check, and you say, listen, come on with me. Like, what's that going to cost me?
Our initial assessment for me is $216 to come in.
Okay.
And then our follow-ups are $98, which are once a month.
Okay.
And then depending on the lab tests we do, like we have about 25, 30 like different types of lab testing that we'll do on top of like conventional standard blood work. And they might range from like $100 to like $500, depending on what we're looking at.
Gotcha.
Like we do one that's a full hormone profile. It tests like cortisol, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, melatonin, like everything. And it gives you like a whole roadmap. It's like a 7-page report. It's like $500 to do just that test. Yeah. So a 3 to 4 month program would be about like 500, somewhere about $500.
Okay.
And then whatever testing we do on there, that we'll only recommend, like once we do the assessment, we can figure out, okay, Jamie's going to benefit from this particular thing. Like we'll only recommend what we think. We're not just going to be like, do every test so we can just know all the stuff. It's like, what are you trying to improve? Here's what we think you should improve. Here's what we should get more information on. We might run this one thing or this one thing or whatever it is.
Do you do TRT replacement?
We don't. We have a pharmaceutical license as well where we can do bioidentical hormones.
Okay.
But we can't do testosterone. So we can do like estrogen and progesterone, desiccated thyroid, stuff like that. Not testosterone though.
Okay. Do you know much about thyroid?
Yeah.
Tell me about is the thyroid a big component of weight gain, weight loss?
Huge. Yeah, huge.
So how does someone know if their thyroid's out of whack?
Thyroid is super. Are you asking for yourself?
Sorry.
I was wondering why you're
I
laughing.
just want to throw in something quickly. So, like, if you imagine like a pro fighter who's kind of, I don't know, they're on the cusp where they got some pretty big ambition. You know, you said 3-month programs of $400 or $500. That's kind of like a training camp. They know they have a fight type of thing. So it's kind of, if they budgeted $400 or $500 to really start figuring.
Well, that price
out
isn't.
for a fight, that's
That doesn't seem bad.
That's not too bad at all.
You know?
Yeah, and we work with quite a few like agents and managers and stuff like that too, and that's part of the reason. Kind of what you're saying, you're looking at it like what's the return on it.
Yeah.
So like a lot of our fighters too, I'll work with an athlete and they do really well and they double their money or they get a win bonus or they get performance bonuses. Now they're looking at it from like, here's my investment to optimize myself and then I can make more and move up the ranks, right? Like a lot of our NHL guys, like their agents will send us guys that are like under contract renew. Like this is his contract year. How awesome can we get him playing this year so we can sign a new deal, right?
So people actually look at it as like part of the business process as a way to make money almost.
Yeah. We're seeing more and more of that. Yeah. And some of the first athletes we worked with their managers were thinking that they were saying like, let's just see how you do with these couple, and then if we like the result, we'll just send you everybody. So that's how we ended up with like 50 plus.
So how did you get into all that? Like, how did this how does someone just go? You know what? I want to help professional athletes optimize themselves. Like, did you come from a sport background yourself? Is that how it all worked?
Yeah, I grew up playing competitive hockey. Like I played AAA hockey growing up for the most part. I played competitive soccer growing up for the most part. And then I was actually going into dentistry first. It was my first kind of thing, my first thought. But I wanted to work with teams in athletics. I was actually going to go here and go to Western here in London.
Okay.
And then I was like, it's not really the right impact that I want to have. Like if I was going to spend my time, I want to see the fixing people's teeth. You don't see the outcome of that. There's no like, you don't see the performance improvement. You don't see the stuff that's actually interesting from that, right? And then I was looking into naturopathic medicine. I like the philosophy, treat the underlying causes. How do you optimize people? How do you do things naturally without having to use pharmaceuticals for everything? And then I thought, maybe I can put those two together. And then I always just was a fan of hockey and MMA and boxing and some combat sports. So then I just started working with some athletes there, and then I just really enjoyed it, and it kind of went from there. Actually, Josh Hill and Lyndon Whitlock were the first two pro guys I worked with for MMA.
Yeah.
And I knew Lyndon through hockey. He played AAA with my brother growing up. So I remember I met with him and I just said, do you have anyone working with you on like your nutrition and what you should be doing and recovery and performance and how to optimize that? And they kind of were laughing like, no, yeah, we don't have anyone looking at that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we started, I worked with both of them, Josh and Lyndon. This was back in the SCORE days. Yeah. And then, we had some good results. They did very well in their careers. Like Josh is even still going well now. And then it kind of spiraled from there. Like, and then different athletes we would work with would be training in facilities that would cross train. So like some of the boxers we would work with would train in facilities where other hockey guys were, and they would train in groups. Like let's say 10 a.m. Us 6 would do a circuit every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then all of a sudden I'm working with a couple of the boxers there, and they're starting to outperform the other guys, and they're going, hey, wait a minute, what are you guys doing different? And it kind of like spread like that.
Yeah.
It kind of went over like that into the different areas. And then we put a little bit more emphasis into the hockey area just to grow that out a little bit and grow the MMA out a little bit more too. And then we've taken that same philosophy, like I was saying, and applied it to everyone. So anyone who wants to feel better, function better, we run them through our system.
That's incredible. That's so cool. That is really cool.
Thyroid. I didn't
yes, yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah,
okay, sorry. Thyroid controls metabolism. So your thyroid will tell your body how fast or slow to go. So if you have a slow thyroid, it'll tell your cells to go slower. So you'll feel tired, you'll feel weight gain, feel like depressed, low mood, like everything kind of slows down.
There's something wrong with my thyroid.
Yeah.
Because those are all things that, I mean, that's how it seems like a common thing. A common thing when I talk to people.
Okay. Yeah. It's
just
common.
Average Joe.
Yep.
Not even just for the performance athlete. Just an average Joe. The guy who works the 9 to 5 job or the the 7 to 4 a.m. Like these guys these people struggle with these things. Weight gain, a lack of energy, shitty sleep. These are all things. Like, so you do check the thyroid too as a part of the thing?
Yeah. So thyroid is a feedback loop, just like the cortisol, DHEA, testosterone. You know some of the stuff already.
I studied bio in school.
Okay.
And I really like the scientific.
Yeah,
stuff.
I can get.
Like really listening. I'm like, this is my favorite podcast by far.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So thyroid loop connects with your stress hormone loop. So any thyroid issue, you're going to see an underlying cortisol, DHEA, a male or female hormone issue there too as well. Usually underlying, meaning that it usually has caused the thyroid to slow down. 90% of thyroid issues are slow thyroid and they're autoimmune in nature. So autoimmune means the problem is coming from the gut.
The body's attacking it.
Yeah. So 70% of your immune system's in your gut. If you overstimulate your immune system, it will attack different systems. So if it attacks your thyroid, then you get, it's called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is hypothyroid, but it's an autoimmune kind. If it attacks your joints, it's called rheumatoid arthritis. If it attacks your skin and connective tissue, it's called scleroderma. So autoimmune, depending on the person, if you overactivate your gut, and then it attacks whatever it attacks. So 90% of slow thyroid cases are autoimmune.
So is it related to what you eat?
Yeah. So you gotta fix the gut.
So the gut is the
it's still the food intake.
Food intake, and then how do you fix the gut? You want to take away things that are causing that overstimulation, the inflammation of the gut. So you want to pull out those foods, repair the gut lining, reset it, put the good bacteria back in, make your gut strong so that you're not overstimulating. Then it has nothing to attack. Like we have rheumatoid arthritis patients in our clinic who have their like joints seized up or ankles twisting in, like young, like 30 in their 30s, 40s. We'll reset the gut, fix all the hormones, make sure they're not putting any pressure, any inflammation in the gut, not stressing their system, and you'll see their joint stuff improve tremendously.
So it fixes inflammation.
This is what I mean though, like looking at it from like the underlying perspective. Whereas if we were just trying to treat the thyroid, then you would help that a little bit, but not really. Like we can improve thyroid function. We can give you selenium and iodine and different things to improve the conversion of the thyroid. But as soon as you stop taking those, then you lose the effect. That's not fixing anything for me. Right? So if I say we can fix your thyroid if you take selenium, iodine, and these thyroid converting nutrients for the rest of your life, then it'll improve. You haven't actually fixed anything. But if you fix the gut, get rid of the inflammation, stop the autoimmune stuff from happening, then you don't have to do any of that other stuff anyway.
That's super cool. So let's see, my mom always said the key to a man's heart is his stomach. She was right on one sense then. Maybe it wasn't about feeding me all the time. It's gonna be, damn it.
I just want to ask, but like, so I guess kind of like hearing of that, a lot of it is, we look at like, let's say a thyroid issue or pick any issue, a lot of that is more symptomatic of something else. It's not the thyroid that's the problem. It's just the symptom.
Exactly. And you can spend all your time patching up all the symptoms, right? Or you can go in and figure out, okay, how are we going to fix this and turn it around? Well, we got to fix the underlying problem. It's kind of like driving your car down the highway and the engine light comes on and you just like cover it with some black tape and then keep rolling.
It's funny, in a work truck, I
Right.
joked about that. I go, the fucking engine light's on again.
Yeah.
And then I put a piece of paper over it.
Yeah. And just keep going, right? But really what you would do right away, if your car light went on, you'd be like, oh, I gotta, like, one of you guys has a nice car up front. So you'd be going to check, why is this engine light coming on? You'd be pulling it in. They'd plug it into diagnostics and say, oh, it's this part and this part need to be fixed, and your levels of this are off. And then you correct those, and the light goes off. And then you keep going, right? So most people would take that level of caution over their car, but not their own system. We just get used to a suboptimal level and just becomes our new normal. And we've seen that from even our Olympic athletes. Like, we have Olympic gold medalists that we work with that are like a month or 2 months in from us working on things. They're like, I can't believe how good I could feel. And they're at the top of their discipline, the top of their sport.
Because what you post today, nobody really realizes how good their body can function. What was it? I have to pull it up.
Most people don't know how good their body is designed to feel.
That's it.
And we came up with that because we just seen it over and over, and just feedback from people. Like, we have a very busy clinic, like it's packed all the time. So people would come in and we'd be like, how are you doing after month 1? I can't believe how much better I could feel. I thought my energy was decent before, or I thought I felt pretty good, and now I feel like sharper and more clear. Actually, one of our hockey guys today said once he started seeing in like high definition, it was hard to go back to regular, because the way he was eating, the way he was feeling, he was like dialed in, focused, felt great in his workouts, recovery was good. He's like, I can't go back to my old habits now. I'm seeing in a new level of where I could be at. Right?
That's incredible.
So we only came up with that just from hearing it enough times.
Yeah,
like,
that's
hey,
cool.
wait a minute.
But it makes sense.
So, you get these new patients, right? So how challenging is the part? You talk a lot about 21 days, setting like that lighting. I mean, that takes a lot of discipline from the person, right? You got to change your diet, or not diet, but your eating habits. How do you find that execution happens from your patients? Like, do a lot of people follow?
Is the success rate high?
Yeah, we have no problems with compliance, like very rarely. And I even have quite a few like young hockey players, for example, like 14, 15-year-olds. We have quite a few that are in their draft year this year, for example. And I'm always thinking about those guys. I'm like, oh, they're not going to be able to do this. But when you start making it really simple to do, like let's say we check 120 foods or 200 foods, and I'm like, don't eat these 3 things for the next 21 days, the next 3 weeks, and I'll send you what to have for breakfast, what to have for lunch, what to have for dinner, and how to avoid all those things. Very rarely. I can't even think of someone offhand where that's come back and said, I can't do it. I don't think there's a single person.
So I think anyone that seeks your knowledge, though, is in that moment for change. They're looking for change. They know there's something that they're not optimal.
Yeah.
So I think when people seek you out, they're not going to go, fuck it, he told me to eat that, but I'm going to eat it anyways. Like, you just paid all this money to get an assessment done. It doesn't make any sense for someone to not follow it to it.
And we try to make it simple enough too. Like, there's no point in us, like I was saying earlier, giving you 10 things to do that is completely overwhelming. Like, what I'm looking for is, what are the 1 or 2 things that are going to give you a big impact and big return? What's going to get you feeling from this to this? And just focus on those couple of things. Everyone's busy enough. You don't want to do 20 things, and I would never expect that. But if we can take a lot of complex info and scale it down to these couple of things, I think that's where the art comes in. Like, it's one thing kind of in medicine to get overwhelmed with all the proper this and do that and drink your water and get this amount of sleep and stretch, like all these things, right? But what's actually going to get you where you want to go to quickly? I think that has to come in. Like, when I first started, my treatment plans would be like 2 pages long. Like, I want you to do all these things, Jamie, in the next like 3 weeks. And you're like, I did one. Yeah. And I did that 50% of the time. Yeah. So we've kind of learned over the years what works, what doesn't work, how to fine tune stuff, how to improve stuff. But and now I'll say to the other athletes, if we have a 14-year-old who can stay on track 100% all the way through, I mean, I think anyone can do it.
What's just give us a freebie here. What's the most common thing that someone should eliminate? That seems to be like the standard with everybody.
Most common food, I would say,
like the thing you should avoid the most, and that seems to be common with everybody that's ever been tested. That makes sense?
You're talking about test wise or just in general? Just
in general. Like you say, I don't want you to eat this for these 3 things for the next 21 days. Is there something that's always in there on everybody?
We don't even test this one, but industrial seed oils. So like safflower oil, sunflower oil, canola, like all those oils, when they're heated, they create tremendous amounts of inflammation in the body that will last for 18 hours plus.
What about like olive oil?
Olive oil is fine. Olive oil is fine.
Extra virgin.
Extra virgin's good. Yeah, it's more so the industrial, like the processed, heavily processed ones. Because you think about, we talked about the gut and all the impact it has. So now if you're putting that in your system all the time and it's constantly inflamed, it almost cancels out all the other good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like you're trying to eat in a certain way to keep your body working well and your gut working well. And then you have like deep fried something that's loaded with oils, and then you got to go home and sleep for 4 hours after. I think that's the number one thing that you should avoid just in general. And I'm not that person who's like, you know, you shouldn't do stuff socially, you shouldn't have fun. Like I think you should be able to do everything you want to do, just picking the right timing. And if you have a title fight, maybe not have 2, you know, extra large pizzas and wings and beer, you know, the day before. But like there's a time and place for all those things. But if you're going to pull out something, I think that would probably be the smartest one because it connects all the systems. And then when we're testing, I would say, just thinking about we've probably done like a few thousand blood tests, maybe I would say dairy or eggs.
Eggs. Oh,
yeah.
That's like my go-to. My wife is always bitching at me about the eggs. Don't eat eggs. They're not good for you. They're not good. There's so many misconceptions on eggs.
Yeah. And a lot of them are wrong too. And I'm just trying to think of what are the most common ones we see come back that are highly reactive. It's probably those two. But it's not that you can't have them ever again either. You just need to reset, rebuild your gut. And then if you're going to have them, you want to have them every 72 hours. So those antibodies, like let's say you react really poorly to eggs, they just don't work well, you just react negatively to them. Those antibody and antigen complex will stay in your blood for up to 72 hours. So as long as you don't go eggs back to back to back and you keep accumulating them in your system, you have time in between, you can clear them out. If you think of it like a garbage can, if you react really poorly to eggs, you might fill the can day 1. Day 2, now you're toppling over, you're getting all the symptoms. Day 3, it's getting worse because you're compounding the effects. So even our athletes or patients in general who react really badly to eggs, I'll say to them, you know, we've repaired everything. Now you can do them like once every 3 days. Don't do them on game day. Don't do them on a day where you want to be super sharp mentally. If you have a meeting, if you have a podcast, you want to do your eggs on podcast day. Stuff like that. If you want to stay sharp, then you can start customizing things that way. But I would say, eggs and dairy. Gluten is probably like 3rd in there. Tree nuts would be like 4th. And then soy, probably 5th. Most common.
Does soy really decrease testosterone? Is that true?
At really high levels. And then also if it's like bad kinds of soy. Like you can have like xenoester, like GMO types of soy, stuff that's not higher quality can impact it. It's a little bit of a myth. You got to take a lot of soy to really
for it to affect testosterone.
Yeah.
What about estrogens affect women?
The
reason I say my wife, she drinks a lot of soy in her coffee.
Yeah, I haven't seen it affect women. I did have one guy I remember who was swapping out all of his dairy and was having soy lattes, soy shakes, soy everything, and he was feeling like he was getting some of the gyno symptoms happening. And I was like, you must be having a lot of soy for that to happen. So there was one guy I remember that had that. But yeah, female hormones are a whole another thing too. Like it's the balance between estrogen and progesterone is so easily thrown off. Like stress will tank your progesterone and now you're estrogen dominant and you'll have all those symptoms. Maybe you're taking a lot of soy, now you're estrogen dominant. And for women too, and for fighters, for example, like if you have female hormone imbalance, you could be gaining weight every cycle, every menstrual cycle. You could be holding on to water and gaining weight. So like, let's say your weight's coming down for 2 weeks, your cycle is getting close a week before you start going up the other way. And then over like the span of months, you could be coming up a little bit in weight versus going down, just because estrogen and progesterone are out of balance. So we do a lot of that work too. We actually have one of the docs on my team. She's more of a female hormone expert, so she'll run all that testing and make sure they're all lined up. But yeah, I would say female hormones are a really common issue. Thyroid's a common issue. And then probably the top 5 things we see with people: low energy, bloating, brain fog, digestive problems, inflammation.
Heartburn?
Heartburn is common.
I find if I drink a lot of water, I get heartburn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it's weird. If I drink cold water, if it's really, really, really cold, I'll get heartburn. But if I drink room temperature water, I'm good. I find I don't get the heartburn. So I need to come see you, man. And that's what it really comes down to. And I was a little bit selfish on this because I was like, I want him to come in because I want to pick his brain, because ideally it's easier to get you here to talk to you in person, because then there's some sort of accountability to it. So I can say, I talked to him, now I know, instead of calling and making the appointment and making the. And you're based out of Hamilton and Burlington. You have 2 locations.
Burlington is our head office.
Okay.
Yeah, just off the highway in Burlington, Walker's Line and Harvester.
Okay.
Yeah, just the one location. We used to have a like a pop-up clinic in Parabellum.
Okay.
With Rory and those guys there. Yeah. And then now we kind of just kept it all in one home base. So we have 4 doctors there, 4 practitioners there. We're doing everything telemedicine these days because of COVID and because of all the restrictions.
That makes sense. So what would you just send out a package?
Yeah, we can send out lab kits to people everywhere. Like I have patients all over the place, like all over Ontario, like everywhere. And then we have like video conferencing or telephone conferencing. And then we have some of our teams in there every Wednesday and Thursday. They're in the office doing IVs, like IV drips. We do all day Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then they see patients there too. But I'm doing everything like telemedicine. I was doing that before anyway, because it's just easier for people. Instead of guys coming from London all the way to my office, for a follow-up, I can just get the same thing done over the phone or over video.
Yeah.
I can ask you these questions, see what progress you've made, make these adjustments. Then you don't have to miss training. You don't have to miss anything. Yeah. Quite a few hockey guys that we have from London too that come out.
London Knights.
Yeah. London Knights. I've done work with quite a few OHL teams. But even like the pro guys that are just living, like this is like a hockey hotbed.
Lives here.
Yeah, I haven't worked with Brandon, but I've met him a couple times through Sam, just being at Sam's fights in Montreal and Toronto.
Yeah, I know they're tight. That's how I met Brandon Press, was at the gym. He was, do you know Carter Walls?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so that's how I met, I didn't meet him. I met him through Carter and Sam.
Okay.
So I know Carter really well. I'm friends with his brother, and he's down in the States now.
Okay.
Doing volleyball.
Oh yeah. Okay. Nice. Nice.
But that's cool. Small world.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. How do we find you? How could someone get a hold of you?
Our website, so Phenom, Phenom, HPM.com. So we have all our info up there. We have a Facebook page for our clinic, which is Phenom High Performance Medicine. And then we have 2 Instagram pages. So mine is at Phenom_doc, DOC. And then we have at Phenom HPM. That's more of our clinic, like generic one. And then we try to put out different info on all the different channels, put out different things on there for people to learn. And like anything that's new and relevant that has like science behind it, that's evidence-based, like we'll put that out on there. Just trying to help people cut through some of the stuff that's out there. Not that there's bad stuff. It just can be confusing for people.
Well, it is. And I think a lot of people don't really fully understand all that stuff unless you dive into a textbook or into a men's health magazine and fully read up on it. And it's amazing that you actually do this and you're local. So I mean, I'm surprised that everybody don't use you. Do you know what I mean? So but hopefully we get this out and the phone starts ringing, and I mean, I know I'm going to be reaching out 100% because I worry. I worry about myself. I have a 6-year-old kid at home. I don't want to be an aged old man. I need to get to fucking 100. That's my goal. I don't want to be like my father passed away at 65, cancer.
Okay.
So I mean, I look at those things and I go, you know what? I'm all about the longevity now. I need to be here. Before I never feared death before.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, now I fear it.
When you have kids, your perspective changes,
yeah,
right?
100% it does. I've even seen you work with kids too, like because you have a newborn.
I have 2 little ones at home. Yeah.
So and I noticed you're like, do this for this for brain development. Listen, I'm a huge fan, man. Like I see all your stuff. I'm like, oh, babe, we got to get something. You know what I mean? Because it's like I believe in you. I believe in everything that you do, and I think what you do is incredible. And I'm honored that you even came on, bro.
Thanks for having me, man.
I appreciate it.
Cool.
And I'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
Beautiful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Callum Anderson. Beautiful.